Okay, good morning, everyone. This is reading today. I posted this in the Google Classroom yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to read it, that's okay. We can do it together now. What this exercise is, it's about a map, and we'll just go ahead and read this together, and then we'll go to the questions. So it says maps are known for helping us figure out how to get to a certain location. Which road do I take to the ice cream parlor? How do I get from my house to my best friends? But maps can show a lot more than just roads and cities. Different types of maps are created to provide various kinds of information about the Earth. For example, some maps mark the borders of tectonic plates. And tectonic plates are a large piece of the Earth made up the Earth's crust and some of the mantle below the crust. The crust and mantle are layers of the Earth. Other maps indicate where vents known as volcanoes are located and the movement of the Earth's crust known as earthquakes occur. In the map above, you can not only see the borders of different tectonic plates, but also an area known as the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is an area in the basin of the Pacific Ocean where a large number of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes take place. The Ring of Fire is unique because the plate boundaries on which it lies are part of a highly populated area like the west coast of the US, the Philippines, and Japan. As you can see, most other border plates are between middles of various oceans. Maps can show their features of the Earth too, not just volcanoes, the Earth's different segments. Elevation maps show how high the land is. Some of them look like ripples in a pond when you throw a pebble in the water, like the rings of a tree. The rings show elevation. The closer they are, the higher the land. If the rings are really far apart, the land is nearly flat in that area. Other elevation maps use color to illustrate where mountains are, changing color, getting darker or lighter as the peaks rise. You can kind of see that with this diagram right here. The lighter color, white, and then the orange and the yellow are higher, and down below the blue and the purple are lower. Okay. Maps can be used to represent any place. Maps aren't limited to land either. Maps of oceans and lakes sometimes show how deep the water is in different areas by using darker colors for deeper sections. Cartographers, people who make maps, even map without moving things. Think of weather maps. They use the color to show where it's raining, where it's snowing, and where there might be hurricanes or thunderstorms. With computers, it's gotten easier to make features of these maps move to show where clouds producing rain or snow are going to travel. People use maps to understand much more than distance location. They're not just for keeping us from getting lost. Okay, so that was a pretty basic one about maps, you guys, and we've covered a little bit of maps in social studies. And I just want to go to the top here, and this is basically the Ring of Fire. We covered this in science, and you can see the one they're talking about, the Ring of Fire, is on the west coast, all the way up through Alaska, down to Washington, Oregon, California. That's why they have so many earthquakes in, California, because it's right on that plate, the Ring of Fire plate. And when the plates kind of move, that's when earthquakes happen. Okay, and we did cover that in class. So there's going to be questions now with this article right here. Okay, so number one, according to the passage, which of the following can maps show? The way plates move, the way volcanoes form, how earthquakes occur, or borders of tectonic plates. This one showed us the borders. If you go back to, you can see all those black lines show the borders of the plates. That's really what this map is showing. It's showing us the border of the plates. Okay, so that would be D. And what does this passage list? The passage lists different effects of volcano eruptions. It doesn't really talk about eruptions. The passage lists different cartographers. It just tells you what that is, doesn't list any. The passage lists different examples of maps. And that's basically it right there. It talks about, elevation maps. The original map showed plate tectonics, talked about weather maps. So really the main idea is talking about different examples of maps. Okay. Number 3. It says some maps indicate where volcanoes are located and earthquakes occur. Other maps show weather in the air. Furthermore, certain maps called elevation maps show how high the land is. What can be concluded about the way people use maps based on this information? So That's saying maps are used in 3 different ways. People use a variety of maps to show or learn the variety of information about the Earth. That sounds like a reasonable answer. B, people are more likely to use weather maps and elevation maps. It doesn't really say that. Maps to show where volcanoes are located evolved from elevation maps and weather maps. Maybe, probably not. Maps are very similar no matter what kind of information about Earth they are illustrating. And we know maps are really different because we talked about the elevation, plate tectonics, and weather. So really, I think it comes down to A, people use a variety of maps to show or learn a variety of information about the Earth. We talked about weather, elevation. You have the basic map that just gives you directions. So it's just basically a map is just depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so people use them in a variety of reasons. So it'd be A. Number 4. How would an elevation map area of the hills differ from an elevation map of an area with mountains? And this basically was talked about in the passage. So when the rings are closer together, it's higher elevation. When they're further apart, it's flatter. So which one of those would support that? The rings of the elevation map area of the hills are farther apart. The rings in the elevation map area of the mountains are closer together. That sounds very reasonable. Okay. The rings of an elevation map areas are closer together. The rings of the elevation map mountains are farther apart. That's the opposite. The higher you get, the closer the rings are together. So mountains are higher, so the rings are going to be closer together. The rings of the elevation map, the hills are thicker and thinner. It doesn't talk about thicker or thinner at all, so C is not it. And the rings of the elevation map are brighter. It doesn't talk about light or dark. So it's going to be A, because as you get up in the mountains, you get higher and the rings get closer together, and that would be A. Okay, and it talks about that in that passage. What is the main idea of this passage? Okay. The closer the rings map, the higher the land. That's true, but I don't know if that's going to be the main idea. Some elevation maps use color to illustrate mountains are changing color, getting darker, layers of peaks rise. Doesn't really talk about that. The ring of fire's area in the basin of the Pacific Ocean where a large number of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes take place. It does mention that, but is that really the main idea or is that a detail? And D says different types of maps are created to provide various kinds of information about the Earth. And that's really what this article is, because it talks about different types of maps for different for whatever you're looking for. And we kind of went over that before. So this one is similar to, I think it's 2 or 3, but it would be D. Different types of maps are created to provide various kinds of information about the Earth. Okay, let's go on to 6. Read the following sentence. Other elevation maps use color to illustrate where mountains are. Changing color, getting darker or lighter as the peaks rise. As used in this passage, what is the meaning of the word illustrate? So it says other elevation maps use color to illustrate. Okay, is it to show, to explain, to draw, or photograph? Okay, so when you illustrate, you kind of would draw, and if you're using it to show, well, I just gave you the answer. It's to show, because if it's using it to changing color, getting darker or lighter, so when the peaks get higher in this map, if it gets darker, that's basically showing the reader that as the lines get darker, you're getting higher up. Okay. You could explain, but it doesn't really explain, because explain is usually verbally. Photograph's just a picture. So really what it's doing, it's showing the reader that whether it gets higher when it's darker and lower when it's lighter, that's really showing you about elevation change. So that would be A. Because explain is kind of having a conversation. You have a conversation, and a photograph is a photograph, okay? Choose the answer that best completes the sentence below. Elevation maps show how high the land is in different ways, period. Blank, some elevation maps use rings and others use color. So on the other hand, maybe, for example, because it's giving you two examples right there. It's saying some use rings, other use color. And those are two examples of two different maps. So the best answer would be B, because it's showing you two examples, rings and colors. Okay, so that's why it would be, for example. Okay, number 8. What does an elevation map show? And that's the written answer. It can show, how high things are, and we'll go back to the passage here and see what it says in here. We'll go down to, let me see where, and if you're on the test, you can always go back to the passage and look for this answer. Let me see here. If I can get down to that. Okay, let's see here. Let me see where that is. Okay, so some maps can show their features, not it's different. Elevation maps show how high the land is. That could be one thing. Elevation maps show how high the land is. Rings show elevation, flatness, elevation, mountains are, where the peaks rise. So anything in this paragraph right here could be a detail that you can use for that question. Okay, so you just have to pick two of them, okay? And you can pick any two. Okay, I think that was question 8. So it's anything in this paragraph right here. And two different things the weather map can show. If we go back to this article, right here, where's the weather maps? Is that down at the bottom? Or where is it? Maybe it's up here. I know it talked about weather maps too. All right, yeah, it's in this. Cartographers, people make maps, even use maps moving things. Think of weather. They use color to show where it's raining, where it's snowing, where there might be hurricanes or thunderstorms. So a weather map can show where it's raining, where it's snowing, where there are hurricanes or thunderstorms. So you can pick any two of those. It shows 4 different things, okay? And the last question, that was 9, 2 things weather can show. Maps that show distance location are used by people to keep from getting lost. Name one other type of map mentioned in the past to give an example how it can help people. Well, we just talked about a weather map. Obviously, a weather map can help you if you're planning on, having a picnic, you're planning on going for a hike, you're planning on going golf, you're planning on going out on the lake. That can certainly tell you if it's going to be rainy or sunny. Obviously, if you're hiking, one of those elevation maps can show how high it is or how low it is. I think we talked. It even talked about the road map. It can certainly show you where you're going. Although most of us use our phones now, but an old map can still show you directions. So you just have to pick any one of the maps that was mentioned in that passage and kind of tell how it helps people. I would go with the weather map. We just did that. And that's going to give you kind of an idea what the weather's going to be. And obviously, if there's a hurricane coming, you probably don't want to plan anything outside, okay? All right, well, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I will send you the link for science, and we'll start that about 11 o'clock, okay? You guys have a wonderful day, and I might see some of you in a little bit.